Hey everyone, welcome to the horror show. I'm Cecil Laird.
Jaime and Fuego. What the hell was that?
I think it's a screamer, man.
God, dude, what are we gonna do?
I have an idea.
Oh.
Hey everyone, welcome to the horror show. I'm Cecil Laird.
Surprisingly survived, Jaime and Fuego.
That's right, guys. We are here to do another Patreon requested review. This is yet another one requested by our friend of the show, Mikey Mnemonic.
Mikey, my dude,
Yes.
formerly known as Mikey Trauma Trash.
Indeed. He requested the 90s sci-fi horror movie Screamers.
Damn good.
And here's the thing. He requested it and I was like, oh sweet, I remember liking this movie a lot. And that has happened before with our Patreon reviews, and then we watch the movie, and then I'm like, ooh, that's
Hasn't aged
not
very
quite what I remember it being. And here's the thing about this movie. In spite of just a couple of rough, early CGI shots, I thought everything pretty much held up in this movie because all of the actual screamers are practical effects, unless they're actually leaping or the ones that are walking. So I think this movie held up tremendously well, surprisingly well, and having not have watched it within the last 15 years at least, I was like, I think he is one, but I had forgotten everything about it. No, and then even the very end, minor spoilers here, you guys, if you haven't seen Screamers, the end with the teddy bear, I was like, oh yeah, that's dope. Like, so I really, outside of a couple of questionable effects from the time,
Here and there.
it's a really good movie. This movie could be made now, and it would be just as effective, if not way more so, because of the leap in effects. But for the time, this was an effective movie.
Effective with the effects and
Effective effects,
movie.
and I'm going to say effects one more time, yeah.
Yeah, this is one that I actually did not like that much as a kid because I was more of a bloodthirsty nature for whatever degree. Plus, there's a scene where this woman just like takes her clothes off and then they don't even show the fact that she's naked. And I
But
still
being
remember
a space horror fan, I would have thought you would have liked it, though.
I distinctively remember being mad as a kid about that scene in
Cameo.
particular. Yes, cameo, producer, but it's just one that didn't resonate the way that it did with this viewing. There are certain films where I don't know what my weird clouded judgment was as a kid, but this one I found so much more fascinating and so much deeper of a sci-fi ilk. And yeah, man, Second Variety and the Philip K. Dick short story that was used as the just basis for this, they expanded upon it and they made it that much more interesting. They added an otherworldly aspect because the original short story is like post World War II, Cold War, takes place all on Earth, and this one moves it to a distant planet and becomes more sci-fi in that estimation. Peter Weller is awesome. It's like Terminators meets I don't know, Tremors or something to some degree, and I maybe loved it. I'm thinking about getting that new deluxe edition Arrow was releasing. So
Oh, they did one?
they were about to.
Oh,
Yeah,
all right,
lots
I'll
of
get
new
it.
special edition features and stuff.
So yeah, overall, that's a pretty positive reaction. So Fueguissimo, why don't you launch into the story for everyone?
Yeah, so the story essentially entails the fact that we have two warring factions on this distant planet where Earth has found it's some sort of just mining
Rare element.
and
It's unobtainium.
yeah, exactly. Oh, that's so funny. So they send people over to this distant planet to start to mine it and cultivate it and like actually bring it out because it is a very highly just flammable fuel. And lo and behold, there's a disagreement about how it should actually be used, and there's like one company back on Earth, and then there's also it just really turns into the haves and the have-nots, and it becomes that political disagreement of sorts.
Well,
and
more than that, it's also the what can happen when there's a breakdown in communication over the course of long-term battles.
And that's also another thing that transpires is the fact that there's this long-standing war between the one company who was mining it and the rights of those people actually doing the hard work, and then the others who are exploiting and using it for their own nefarious means and whatever. And there is a disconnect between them and Earth, and there's one twist. Maybe we shouldn't necessarily reveal it, but it happens earlier in the film, and it just shows that, okay, things are not exactly what they seem. And there was at one point in the story, though, that, you know, there was a cybernetic like creature that was made and brought to this distant planet and was used to just kind of, I don't know, just go after the opposing force initially, and now they've kind of gone rogue, like renegade of sorts, and
they self-replicate and things like that. So
and they actually get way crazier in just what they can do. They've almost upgraded themselves, so there is kind of that Skynet self-awareness.
But that's the thing, they don't know, like the group of people that we follow don't know that this has happened.
Hence the isolation.
Yeah, the isolation aspect. So this one colony of people that are still out there on this planet fighting the good fight get a communication from the opposing side saying there's supposed to be some sort of peace talks, and then they also have a random group of people that they've never met before crash land right outside their base that say, no, it's been that person's no longer even alive, you know, like it's been
the person they see
years.
In the hologram,
right.
the general who they just saw give them a speech like earlier in the movie.
So yeah, this group, this colony led by Peter Weller of RoboCop fame, by the way. Awesome to see him. At first I was like, is that Ed Harris? I'm like, no, it's RoboCop. All right.
And he's playing just this like smart, like snarky, like general type role, but
good role.
Yeah, he does a tremendous
He's McCready
job.
from The Thing.
More or less, yeah. He sells it very, very well.
So yeah, they have to go and try and verify the authenticity of this message, because someone, when all those people crash land, someone's like, no, that's not true. And so he's like, do I believe the communique? Do I believe this person? And so they have to go and discover the truth. Along the way, they discover even more truths that they weren't anticipating.
Especially one young boy who they think has been abandoned.
Can I go with you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, really, really interesting stuff. And it all plays together. Like, everything ties together very well in this film.
There's very few loopholes and like plot holes or anything of that nature. It really just, you know, coagulates and coalesces all nicely.
So yeah, I really dug this movie, and the story played out very interestingly and intelligently, in my opinion.
Truly.
So the acting is also strong. Obviously, Peter Weller, the female companion that enters at a part way through the picture.
She's about two-thirds of the way through.
Right.
Yeah.
She does a good job. The other parts of the colony around him do a good job.
I even thought
the little boy does a good job.
Yeah, his friend back, you know, because they're smoking these weird cigarettes that are supposedly like almost like clearing up their lungs from all the radiation, and then they also have real cigarettes. It's how they
fight the radiation. Yeah,
it's a very strange dichotomy, and yeah, it's intriguing in that regard. But Weller's character has this best friend who he's known for a lengthy period of time, and they're doing some reminiscing, and there is a interesting kind of twist with that character, not to reveal a bad or a good way, but he comes back and, you know, gives some very interesting bearing to the end of the film. And it's really a guessing game with so much of the acting from so many of these characters, because it does have that. We've done lots of reviews of the Thing comic books and stuff recently, and that aspect really interplays here in the fact that is this character or isn't this character who you really think they are. And it adds a sense of urgency, suspense, and coolness and intrigue, I guess. So
yeah, totally. Now as far as the acting goes, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, that's kind of what I was
you were
on.
Jumping into, so you might as well continue.
Yeah, just to continue, I mean, Weller is compelling. I mean, he has this stoic, like, just kind of constant resting, asshole male face about him.
Well, he does, but he's actually an actor that can become soft when he needs to.
And he does in this degree, in the fact that, I mean, when they encounter the young kid and the crash-landed pilot, who is the sole survivor of this mission that wasn't actually trying to get to them. They were actually trying to get out to one of like Jupiter or Saturn's moons or something like that, and they were supposed to. They're like, oh, we found this particular ore out there, and we can start mining it there. So this planet is pretty much dead in the water. We don't even need this spot anymore. Hence the lack of communication. Hence the blackout of everything else. But sorry, yeah, but yeah, I must admit, he really had some well-rounded heart and just kind of personality to him, as opposed to being just, disappointingly, like black or white or whatever. He felt like a well-rounded character. Losing his wife, not like lost, but the fact that he'd spent so much time out there that she divorced him and found somebody else, and he still like thought about her and stuff. That's one scene early on where he's talking with his friend, where I could feel vulnerability, and I was like, Weller really does have acting chops beyond just looking like a badass.
Oh yeah.
And so the girl who comes in about 2/3 of the way through, who he kind of has a little love thing with, I mean, effective chemistry. Actually, it felt like they sped through it a little bit based on the circumstances. They were in the last third of the movie,
but, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I didn't really just find it to be stupid and just shoehorned in. It did feel like, hey man, there is going to be horniness in the like when your back is to the wall and you could die.
It felt organic enough for a bunker setting.
It did. Totally did. And there's another character they encounter when he goes to the rival base where they're supposed to go to negotiate.
The teardrop man and the dude that chews on the straw.
Exactly. Yes, they were effectively just what is their agenda, and they didn't come off as hammy or just stupidly acted. They actually had a slight element of menace, intrigue, and interest, and I thought it was just a very cool dichotomy of everybody once they started going into the lower levels of the base where they went to negotiate, trying to find this person who sent out the call, allegedly, for them to work things out, and then they can't find this person, and who knows how long before it was when that actually happened, and it's well scripted and well acted. This movie was really so much better than I remembered.
Yeah, I agree. It's just a very enjoyable film, and I thought the acting was good across the board as well. There's a little bit of ham-fistedness, but not much with the main actors. I thought everyone sold it just fine, and Peter Weller specifically did a great job. So I was on board for the acting, and again, for the time, the effects might not hold up at times, but most of the effects are just the Tremors-esque things skidding underground, and so all they did was literally pull something under dirt and make it give that, that shush effect as it goes through the ground, and then the only actual CG parts were when the things were jumping at people. Yeah. And so that obviously would take you out of the movie immediately nowadays because it's done so much better by things. But if you made this movie nowadays and took that out of it and replaced it with what we get nowadays, this would be a super, super, super strong sci-fi horror movie.
Truly.
So, yeah, I mean, the acting leads to that. The effects, ultimately, if you look at it that way, that's the state of it. It's very, very 90s effects. Some way more than others. Like the practical stuff, when you see sort of the inner workings of some of these screamers.
Which happens early on where, Weller is joking with the guy who goes over to touch it. He's like, yeah, it's dead, blah, blah, blah. And then he's like, oh, there's still, like, reactionary.
Yeah, the saw still goes.
Yeah, it still goes and almost slices his fingers off and stuff. And that's where I make the Terminator connotation especially. But the set design...
Very well done.
Insanely awesome.
Yeah, production design was crazy.
It honestly looks like it's somewhere in Europe or whatever, but apparently it was up in these abandoned like power plants and stuff in Canada. So that's where they filmed this, was up in Canada.
It did look like another planet. They did a great job with that.
It really, really did, and just did not look like cheap. Like
even in the 90s, it looked very well done and like an established location.
The set design is what I feel like holds up so much better than just about anything else in this, aside from the acting and like the storytelling. I agree with that. It's only the effects that are dated. Everything else in this film holds up, and it looks like they spent money on it. This is a project that apparently Dan O'Bannon, who also co-scripted the original Alien movie, he was trying to get this movie made since the 80s, and he just encountered hurdle after hurdle after hurdle, and there were rewrites, and there were people coming in and saying, okay, it's not going to be a post-World War II film, it's going to take place on a separate planet, and so it went through various revisions, but, I mean, it's Philip K. Dick who did Blade Runner. It's one of the most iconic sci-fi writers that we have ever seen, and so it's got great genetics that went into the creation of this.
Well, it's such a good movie that they tricked me once with the sequel. I watched the sequel. I have the sequel, so I'm tempted to say we should watch the sequel and just conclude the Screamers franchise, Because then we can put it on one of our franchise
Why the hell not? Yeah.
ranking lists.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Totally.
So it's just one more movie. So we'll probably go ahead and review Screamers 2 coming up. I remember it not being nearly as good, but
I actually never saw Screamers 2.
I don't remember anything about it other than that it doesn't hold a candle to the first one.
It feels
but maybe
like
I'm wrong. Maybe I don't remember
right. It honestly
right.
feels like it's ripe for a sequel. Like there was just so much room to still. Somebody goes back to the planet, or survivors that are still there, or whatever. It wrapped up our main character story, but not the whole mythology of the planet and everything that was going on in that world. So
right.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well,
good,
I think that's going to do it for our review of Screamers. Thank you to Mikey Mnemonic for suggesting it, because this is one of those really great ones I was happy to revisit after watching it. So
you're the man, Mikey. Much love to you, brother.
So thank you guys very much. Until next time, I've been Cecil Laird.
Gracias a Jaime Fuego.
And remember, stay scared.